Welcome to the Know Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Fippo Basania, and today's guest is Kevin Stimpson. Kevin is the founder of a company called Strive and Grind, which helps you build a brand image that attracts the correct tribe so that they can be paying premium prices for your products and services. He's also shared the stage speaking on personal branding alongside legends like Lewis Howes and Caleb Maddix, alongside many other people around the world. So thank you for taking the time today.
V, thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited, pumped to be here.
Me as well, man. So, no, I'm glad we did this because I think with a lot of the work that you've done, it's going to shed some light on a lot of questions that people have in terms of on social media. How do I portray myself, whether it's individuals or brands or businesses, whatever it might be, because there's so many people out there like stating that they can build your personal brand, or this is the right way to do it, or that's the right way to do it. And I don't think there are many people out there that you can trust because there's so much noise. So before we get into like Strive and Grind, what you do, and I guess your thoughts and ideas on that subject, if we just peel back the layers a little bit, because I know you started in a slightly different place before the company. What was the personal brand you were giving off before all this?
The personal brand that I had given off before Strive and Grind?
Yeah. Like when you had no knowledge what personal branding was, how to do it, like what were you doing then?
So for me, I was in corporate America and I was an IT project manager working for a Fortune 200 science company. So back in the day, man, my dream, my whole goal was to be the chief information officer for a big Fortune 500 company. So that everything I had to do, I graduated with 2 college degrees. I had 2 6-figure certifications prior to graduation. And then I landed this thing called a leadership development program, which is essentially like a management training program, if you will. And you move to different cities, different states throughout the country, going through different rotations for this certain company. And so I was lucky enough and blessed to have about 6 or 7 IT vice presidents who mentored me throughout my first 2 to 3 years out of corporate America. And during that time, I noticed a certain trend where a lot of the men who I looked up to, I'm just thinking like, all right, where's Kevin going to be 20, 30, 40 years from now? A lot of these guys, they were unhealthy. They were overweight. They didn't have wedding bands on their fingers. They were stressed out. They were overwhelmed. Even though they were getting paid a lot of money and things like that, they were still getting fired and losing their jobs and things like that. So while I had this whole corporate America thing going on, I'm also like injecting my mind with listening to podcasts and reading books and all that, and starting to learn that, man, I don't have to be a corporate America person and work my way up the corporate ladder. There's a certain thing out here called entrepreneurship, starting your own business, and more of starting your business online versus having to have $100, $200, $300,000 of startup capital to start a business, quote unquote. So that was like the complete game changer for me. And like, that was how I got started. I know that was a loaded answer, but I was like a dorky tech dude, if you will, as my personal brand back then.
So what actually got you into doing IT project management? Like where did the interest for IT start? Because I guess I'm assuming when I say you took the traditional path of like studying, going to college, and then that was it.
Yeah. So if you think about it, most people who go to college, why do they go to college? They want to get a job, and not just any job. You would assume that they want to get a high paying job. So for me, the number one reason why IT was the thing that stuck out for me was that was up there with one of the top highest paying jobs. So I was like, all right, if that's what I have to do, like that's what I have to do. And then also my older brother, I was able to tap into IT through him. He was in the IT field as well. And I saw that he was doing pretty well, like right out of the gate. And so I wanted a piece of that.
Yeah. I think because we don't have that much hindsight or like wisdom at that young age, like we're forced to think about what we want to do with our careers 17, 18. And it's like, you don't really know. And if you think you know, you don't know. Like you're just forced to go in some sort of direction. So did you land that job quite quickly after college then?
Yeah, man, it was pretty cool. It was pretty straightforward as well. Obviously, it took like a little hands-on experience, but it was really dope. The opportunity I had, I got to manage people who were 5, 10, 15 years my senior. And so it gave me that leadership skills and those leadership qualities coming right out of the gate to be able to be somebody of authority and be a leader. So I was like, all right, if I can be a leader within this company, but also like it would have to take 10, 15, 20 years for me to get to the status that I wanted to get to. What if I can create my own persona, my own personality, my own business, my own brand, and being a leader where I'm truly valued and my value isn't based off of the years of experience that I have, but more along the lines of the results and the value that I truly can provide somebody. So that was like the difference. It was cool because my last year working in corporate America, I remember going into the CIO's office, man, and at the time he's making like $3 to $4 million a year. And I go into his office and he's like, man, what do you want to do? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, man, like I want to be the CIO. I want to be like literally where you're sitting. And little did he know that that's not what I really wanted to do. But obviously I had to tell him that or I'm going to be out of a job, right? So I was like, yeah, man, I want to be where you're at literally in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And it gave me so much power having that conversation because from his side looking at me, he's probably just thinking like, man, you got a long ways to go. And then for me, I'm like, man, I know I'm on my way out of here, but it's so much power of me being able to have this conversation with him. He thinks I'm this little guy on a totem pole. And yet I'm able to create a business within a few years time frame, making as much money he's making after 40 years of being a IT professional. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's interesting you bring that point up because I think if I'm right in saying, like, when you're in alignment with like your strengths and the value that you can bring the world, like figuring out who you are and what you can serve the world with, you could make a lot more money faster. And not in like a get rich quick type of way, but I mean, like from everyone that I've spoken to, and I'm sure you're the same, like once you figure it out, you can become the strongest guy in that or girl in that space, and then people want you for your services, and you don't have to wait to serve others within a company. You can just start serving them based off of making yourself the brand or the spotlight and saying, look, this is what I can bring you. Here's how much it costs, and that's it.
100%.
Yeah. So I mean, as a leader, being that young, was that your early 20s?
Yeah, definitely 22 to 24, 5.
Okay, cool. No, that's quite. I guess that's quite young. So, like, what were the biggest lessons you took away as like being a leader, learning to be a leader at that age?
For me, I would just say like the more you're focused on your craft and being really, really good at it, you can pretty much command any room, or you can pretty much have whatever type of authority or leadership that you need for people to actually want to listen to you and do what it is that you have to do. Right. So same thing for me, from the branding side of things. The moment I switched that decision and said, hey, I want to be a branding expert, and I don't want to just be any branding expert, but I want to be the best in the game and study premium branding and how to be highly paid and all that kind of stuff and own it. So for me, back in corporate America, I had to own being young. I had to own that as my identity. I had to own project management and being really, really good at it. And I had to get really good results for people and for the projects and all of that. Because if I weren't getting results and projects were going off schedule and not on time and all of that, then that's going to be bad on my behalf. But the same thing from an entrepreneurial perspective too. When I own this thing and I'm going to commit to being the best at it and really, really good, but also focusing on getting that results and ROI, everything's going to go to a whole new level for me as well. So I was kind of, it wasn't a hard transition. It was actually an easy transition to go from business working and doing entrepreneurial projects for somebody else to turning the switch to business and doing entrepreneurial projects for myself.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say is like that. I was just wondering if you could go into a little bit about the transition. So like from whilst you're working to when Strive and Grind comes in and what that transition looks like in terms of like speaking to people who are in a job now, they want to come out of it. Maybe they have an idea, maybe they don't, but it's like, how do I fit it in? I'm working long hours already. I've got a job. I'm drained when I come back. Shed some light on how you did it.
Yeah, man. So everything's like figure outable. So for me, again, like at the time, listening to podcasts and reading books, I'm doing all this stuff. And at the time, I'm living 3,000 miles away from where I'm living right now. So I used to live on the East Coast of the United States, Virginia Beach, Virginia. And then we moved 3,000 miles away to San Diego. So I'm starting to see that some of the most successful people that I'm following online, they live in San Diego, California. And so for me, success really comes down to environment, whether it's proximity or whether it's just like what you're listening to. So my wife and I, we leveraged my day job at the time to move to San Diego. We had just bought out a company here in San Diego, and I hit up all the vice presidents at the top and said, hey, are there any opportunities for me to come out there, blah, 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 blah. And long story short, they were able to make it happen. I moved to San Diego. And at this point in time, we've always wanted to live in California. We just didn't know how it was going to happen. So the fact that my company bought out a company out here, it was just like godsend. And thank you so much. Now I'm like, all right, feet are on the ground. Now we actually got to do something about it. And so, 2 months go by and things like that. I buy my first big investment online course, and it was Marie Forleo's B School. And I went through that course, $2,000. It stung my pockets a little bit. And as I'm going through this course, and as some weeks are going by, I'm scrolling Facebook, and I see a live event come on my timeline. And I'm like, babe, we got to go there. And it's funny, man, at the time, this was like 4 years ago, short 4 years ago. I think it was like $40 refundable ticket. So if you didn't like the event, you can get a refund. So I'm like, babe, it's just $40. Like, let's do this thing, right? It shows where my mindset was at. So we go to this $40 event, and the people that I look up to, they're speaking at this event, which was even more reason for us to go. And as we're here, it's a 3-day event. And as you know, if you've ever been to an event or anyone listening here, there's going to be a pitch at the end. And so day one, my arms are crossed. I'm like, man, I ain't buying no one's stuff. Day 2 goes by. I'm getting a little more relaxed. I'm talking to my wife. Like, we're whispering each other's ear. Like, babe, like, I don't know. Da, da, da. Day 3, I'm sold. I'm like, babe, we got to do this thing. And so we end up investing into a super high-end $36,000 coaching program. It's like a group coaching program, but one-on-one too at the same time. It's a mastermind. And that was the first thing that I ever did. And I ended up getting my first few clients from that mastermind. So long story short, it was one, being in proximity to success. And so San Diego was success for me. 2 was being sick of trying to figure everything out myself and hiring a mentor or a coach, being a part of a mastermind, someone who's already where I need to be. And so I hired a mentor, hired a coach, was part of this mastermind, started to surround myself every single day, every single week, every single month around like-minded people, and then working on the business. And then before you know it, things are happening. We're starting to create like a nice name for ourselves. And my goal was within 12 months of moving to San Diego, I wanted to quit my day job. That was the goal. And it was cool because within 12 months of moving to San Diego, we ended up quitting our day job and making our first 6 figures in the branding space. And so that was like the importance of doubling down, being in proximity of success, and like just specializing in that one thing, which was branding for me.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I see that with a lot of people. It's just like figuring out that one thing that you want to focus on, whichever area it is, because then you can go all out in terms of your finances, your time, your investment, like everything. All your effort can be put in that one direction to make that the best thing. So how did you rationalize spending like $36,000 on that course? Because I know there's some people out there that say, you need to get a mentor and you want to cut out the mistakes and save time. And I think people understand that, but it's like when that prices drop, that's when it's like, oh, maybe not. Yeah, I don't think I could really afford it. So obviously from what you're saying, you couldn't afford it in cash there and then. So what was the narrative that you told yourself to make you feel like this is something I have to do? Because it's obviously paid off now. So, people can start to change their psychology behind investment.
100%. So the language you used at first, you said, how can you rationalize spending $36,000? So for me, that weekend, I had to rationalize investing $36,000. So that was the aha moment, going from it being an expense and spending money to actually investing it. And it was cool because from a mindset standpoint, our credit, we were just like, all right, we need to acquire some credit cards to make this thing happen. And so the goal was to say, all right, It was a $3,000 a month mastermind coaching program, right? So over 12 months, 36 grand. So we said we have 3 months before we max out this credit card or we're screwed. So it put us in a position where we had to put in the work and we had to hustle and we had to grind. And so we literally had 90 days to start making at least $9,000 a month, or no, not $9,000 a month. I'm sorry. We had at least 90 days to start making at least $3,000 a month to be able to pay for this mastermind. And so that was the logic for ourselves. But a lot of people, they don't approach it that way. They're just like, all right, you know, I'm going to invest into this thing, man. I don't have the resources right now. All right, cool. I'll go into debt or I'll get a loan or whatever. But they're not putting like a timestamp. They're not putting a end date on when they have to start recurring a certain type of generating a certain amount of revenue each and every single month. So that's what we did, and it was able to help us out big time mentally.
Yeah. So it's just telling yourself the right story, and
Yeah.
seeing it in the right way. As you said, like language is important, the way that you speak to yourself about that situation. So, um, so then if you talk a little bit about strive and grind in terms of your first year, you said that you hit 6 figures. What does it take, or actually, what did you do right? Like, what was it that you did that helped you reach that? Because there's so many businesses out there that start, that fail, and take a long time to make 6 figures. And I guess some people out there who are listening feel disheartened as well. It's like, I've been doing this for so long. What's going wrong?
Yeah. So for us, first things first was focusing on the one thing. So it came down to what were we actually going to do. So we said, all right, we're going to do branding, but are we going to pigeonhole ourselves and do anything and everything branding and be like everybody else out there? Or are we going to specialize into this one thing? So we realized that most people who are in a branding industry and a branding space, they only had this, you know, few type of offers. They either did just like your logo, they did a logo and a website, or they would just say like, hey, we're just going to be a full-on agency. We'll do social media, we'll do ads, we'll do branding, we'll do website, we'll do all of this stuff. Then we say, all right, that's the model. And that's the model that isn't really working, or that's the model that we don't want to do. Also, we realized that a lot of these people, they weren't really business savvy, business focused. We also realized that it took them a really long time to do the things that they had to do and deliver to their clients and things like that. So we said, all right, how are we going to approach this thing differently? We said, well, what are all the things that has to happen in order for an entrepreneurial to be that much more successful? If they had these few things, it would just be a game changer for them. So we said, all right, brand strategy will be super important. Knowing your vision statement, your mission, your purpose, your core values, your core offerings, who your core audience is, all that stuff, getting really clear on that. So we said, all right, check. We're going to do that. We're going to do their brand identity, logos, font systems, color schemes, create their website, do a photo shoot, and we're going to design their brand collateral in 45 business days. So we were going to say, hey, we're going to do all of this stuff that was super high value, but we're going to do it in a fraction of the time. Whereas 90% of our competitors out there, they're doing all of this stuff and it takes a long time, or they're just like doing one-off type of stuff. So with us, we said, okay, we're going to be willing to turn away clients to attract the right ones. And we're going to be the more premium option too at the same time. So when people are saying, hey, we're going to do a $50 logo, or we're going to do like a $500 website, we're like, no, we're not going to do all of that. We're not going to do any of that, because for us, it's like, hey, if we're going to work with you, it's only going to be because we genuinely believe that whatever it is that we're offering you is going to be of the most service and of the most value. And so once we got really clear on our offer, we started out, I think it was like $5,000. We started to get clients at that point. Then we increased to 6,000, then 8,000, then 10, 12, 15, and 20. So it was just like slow, steady increases. And we increased our price points based off of the value, the ROI, the testimonials, the case studies, and all of our clients winning. And so what a lot of people do out there, they either one, come right out of the gate and they charge super low price points, or they try to come right out of the gate with a super average offering, like everybody else is super like commodity based, and they come out of the gate charging super, super like high end. And so for us to get comfortable and for us to build that know, like, and trust factor, it was important for us to make sure that as we were delivering the value and getting our clients those results, we were steadily increasing our price point, which was increasing our perception as well. So we're doing that. And then we're doing like a lot of speaking engagements, doing a lot of podcasts, things just like this. And we're getting very well known, and we're surrounding ourselves around the right people. And we made sure that like the people that we saw from afar that were influencers, who were the celebrities in our industry and things like that, we put together a game plan to like turn them into our friends. So it's like, what did we have to do to become friends with those type of people? And so by us investing into those masterminds, by us going to these certain type of events and networking parties and things like that, and paying the top dollar to be in those certain rooms. And when we do connect with these certain type of people, we're not like asking and taking things from them. We're just being cool, genuine people. And they connect with that, they see that, and boom, before you know it, you're exchanging phone numbers, you're collaborating, you're doing all these different things. And so those were just the certain few things that I did to get to that level right off the bat.
Yeah, so that last point you touched on was quite important, because it's a similar mindset to what I've used to build up like guests for the show and stuff like that, especially the last few months, getting some bigger and bigger names. And it was the mindset of like treating the person as a friend and not a fan. Like
Yes.
the guy you're trying to network with, you can't say, can I take a picture with you? Can you do this? Can you introduce me to this person? Oh my God. Like, you have to remember it's a human being. Like they want you to show interest in them. They want you to share something about your story, just to have a conversation, as you said, to be a friend. Like they have so many people on social media and away from social media who are treating them as a fan or a groupie.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not many people who are talking to them on a level. And so I think they find some respect in that. So you have to see eye to eye, rather than, oh, what can I take from this person? Like whether it's the picture or the autograph, whatever it might be. So do you think that formed a big part of the clients that ended up signing with you then?
Yeah, 100%. Like one prime example, John Lee Dumas. I'm sure you're probably aware of who he is. And so he has a show, Entrepreneur on Fire. I was lucky enough to get on this show back in, when was it? 2015. I got on the show back in 2015. So I knew of John back in 2012. And so when I moved here to San Diego, he was going to be a speaker. He spoke at that first event that I ever went to, that first ever entrepreneurial event I ever went to. And so I remember seeing him for the first time, and I'm like, yo, everybody is rushing this dude. Like, he can't even go to the bathroom because everyone's just like, John, just trying to take selfies. And then I saw him at another event, and then another event, then another event. And I literally saw him about 5 or 6 times. I remember my wife saying, Kevin, like, go up, go talk to him, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Because when I do talk to him, we're going to be on the same, like, level playing field, right? And what's cool is I got an introduction by one of my good friends, Mark Lack. He introduced me back in 2015 to John, and I ended up getting on Entrepreneur on Fire from that. Well, what's cool is my friend Cole Hatter, he had his annual event called Thrive come up in Las Vegas for the first year there in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so John is speaking at that event. And it's cool because the night before, Cole hosted like a little networking party before the actual conference. And so I'm at the networking party, and then boom, there goes John. Well, this is how fate works out and how like cool things work out. The next day, my episode with Entrepreneur on Fire goes live. Boom. That's the perfect time for me to talk to John, because I'm like, yo, my episode goes live with you tomorrow on Entrepreneur on Fire. So that happened. And from there, that night, we partied it up in Las Vegas. And then the rest is history. And we've been really, really good friends since. And I always made sure, like, if I was going to take a picture with somebody, it wasn't because I was in selfie mode, but it's because, one, they either wanted to take a picture, or two, we were just taking a picture because of the vibe and the environment of like, that's just what was going down, And so that's like a mentality that I hold anywhere and everywhere. If I see someone like Grant Cardone, I saw Grant at 10X. We had a great booth, if you will, like at his conference last year in Las Vegas. And part of the perks of me being in the mastermind that I was in, Grant gets to come up, say what's up to everybody. I act like I don't even know who Grant Cardone is, right? Because if I do act like, oh, Grant, what's up, blah, 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 I'm just like another one of them. But if I introduce myself like, hey, what's up, man? I'm Kevin. I own Starve and Grind. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Grant. It's like, cool. We're on equal playing fields. And there could be something he says that captures my attention. There may be something I said that captures his attention. And then everything else, you know, goes from there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, most definitely, man. And that
Yeah.
mindset shift has definitely changed the way that I approach relationships as well. And I guess I'm glad that you brought that up, because there are a few people who've asked me and are interested in, you know, everything that I'm doing. Oh, how are you meeting all of these people, and you know, how do you build relationships? And it's just that, as you said, acting as if you're on equal playing field, like respecting the other person the way that you'd want them to see you,
Yes.
and providing value as well. Like, how can it's being in that mindset of solutions. What can I do to help this person? Who can I introduce them to? What resources will help them? Like, there's always that one little thing that you can find. If you're listening close enough, you'll find something that you can say, I know what to do. I think I know what will interest them. And then just giving that off to them, you know? So,
For sure.
Can you shed some light on some fond memories of building up Strive and Grind? Like some of the darker days where you felt like, is this, you know, what was 36 grand? Was it worth it? Like, what's like some of the conversations you're having, some of the thoughts you're having?
Oh, man. I mean, I have so many. It's like, where to start? So, for instance, that first experience that I had from, you know, hiring my coach, we didn't really see eye to eye on everything. And I remember it was November of 2015. What was it? Yeah, November 2015, and it was Thanksgiving time. And I remember $3,000, I think because our credit card was maxed out, it had hit our checking account. And so that $3,000 had came out of our checking account, and we had rent due the following week. And you know, living here in San Diego, it's not cheap, man. And this is the time of Thanksgiving. And I remember that money coming out, and I remember reaching out to my coach, like, hey, like, can we figure something out? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, that came out of my checking account, not my credit card, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, nope, there's nothing we can do about it. Part of me is like, oh, you sucker, you savage. But the other part of me is just like, damn, this is the number one feeling that I don't ever want to feel again. It was like, it was that painful. And so that me having my back up against the wall, I think was the starting point to what defined me as an entrepreneur, around not wanting to ever settle, not wanting to ever be okay, and not ever wanting to be in that financial situation ever again. So for some people, it's like they either leverage pain or they leverage pleasure and desire to get to where they want to be, or they leverage pain. So for me, that was like my painful defining moment. I remember a few months after that, we were having some financial challenges, if you will, as far as like revenue coming in and cash flow. And so back in 2011, my wife and I, we had bought our first ever car together. And it was a Toyota Corolla. We bought it brand new. It's like $25,000. Well, we was in a certain tight spot here, and I think it was like 2016, some time frame, a little bit after that episode in 2015. And we had to sell the car because we needed to pay rent. And so the car sold for $8,000. And so literally that money was gone in like 4 weeks or something like that. So it's just like steady hustle and grind and all that. And another thing too is just like your mental capacity. There's certain things as an entrepreneur where you're on the up and up, like you're hitting home run after home run. You're living life like on the high, like, damn, this shit is good. Then there's going to come a point where just like, boom, you just got knocked on your butt. Boom, you got knocked on your butt again. Boom, you got knocked on your butt again. And you look up and you wake up one day just like, yo, there's nothing going right. Literally last year, I went through, and I didn't consider it a depression because I kind of like, who gets depressed? Like, if you know Tony Robbins, you know about mindset, you could turn the switch on, turn the switch off, like blah, blah, blah. Like, come on, like get in your peak performance, get in your peak state, all that kind of stuff. Well, last year, I kind of went through this little rut where emotionally I wasn't motivated and I was down and out. And it's funny, man, because it's not funny. Well, 2017, my wife and I, we co-founded Strive and Grind together. 2017, she was depressed. She wasn't happy. And she made sure that 2018 was the year she phased out of Strive and Grind. She didn't want nothing to do with it anymore. And she was only going to focus on her business, and being happy, doing what she wanted to do. And I was like, cool. During that time in 2017, I couldn't see that emotionally, like why she was so stuck. And it wasn't until 2018, I got into my stuckness. And then 2-3 days ago, I'm on a mastermind call with a group of my close homeboys, and we're just talking things out. And typically we all go around and we share our wins, we share our losses and things like that. Well, that whole call was dedicated towards one of my friends who was just depressed, and he was just in it. And it happened to be that out of 5 of the 5 people who was on that call, in the last 365 days, we had gone through some type of depression or some type of emotional like rut. And I was like, man, why don't any entrepreneurs talk about this? We only talk about the good. We only talk about the high. We talk about the Lamborghinis and Ferraris and spending hundreds of dollars on dinners and partying and clubbing and having fun. But no one's talking about the challenges. And so I was like, man, I want to create space for people to talk about that. Well, 3 days ago, I wrote a Facebook post. I was like, how many of my entrepreneurs out there have either gone through depression or experienced some type of emotional, like just straight up rut that they couldn't get out of? And literally within 2 or 3 hours, I had 100 comments of everyone saying, yes, me. And then 2, I had about 150 plus like engagements, likes, hearts, whatever, wow faces. And I'm like, this is crazy, but no one's talking about it, especially from a marketing standpoint. And so that's just the realness that comes with being an entrepreneur. We have to realize that there's going to be a lot of great times, but there's also going to be a lot of hard times. But the thing that's going to get us out of the hard times is just realizing that those are opportunities and lessons to grow. And so that's just the way it is, and that's the landscape.
How do you find yourself coming out of that then?
So the tail end of last year, I had to read. I didn't even read. I'm not even going to say that. I listened to a lot of audiobooks, and the audiobooks are more around like the self-help side of things. And so for me, I was super into self-help for like my first 2-3 years in entrepreneurship. And then I phased out of it because I'm like, I don't need it anymore. But it came to a point in time where literally we go through our seasons. There's going to be times where that stuff is going to be super relevant. And so for me, I went so long where it not being relevant, where that last 2 or 3 months of last year, it was absolutely relevant for me. So I had to like super dive into that. I had to like tap into more of like my emotions. I talked to my wife a lot. And so it also, I feel like it helped too that 2019 just started, because now I feel like rejuvenated. I feel fresh again and all that type of stuff. So I think it also happened at the perfect time, where last year at the tail end, I was like feeling like this, but now I'm like, all right, cool. There was a point in time where I'm just like, yo, it was June or July. I was just like, I can't wait for 2018 to be over. Like, can it just be over already? But then I started to I was starting to hit some grand slams too. And so things were coming up on an up and up again. So that was another reason why I was able to get out of it. If I kept getting like negative and not getting the things that I needed to get, I would have easily went back down into the hole. But because like good things was really starting to happen to me, really good things started to happen to me. I was even on the Ellen show. So I'm like, sweet. Like those were all the tail end of 2018. Like all this amazing stuff was starting to happen. So I would have been crazy to still stay in my little rut, you know?
Yeah, most definitely, man. Well, no, that's amazing that you're on the Ellen show, by the way. Congrats on that.
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
But I think it's good that you shed some light on that, because as you said, there's so many people that don't really talk about it. And it's important to realize the word you use, seasons. Like the way I like to keep my life in perspective is looking at nature and how nature works.
the sun doesn't shine every day, but at the same time, it doesn't rain nonstop. There is a point in time where it stops, but there's a reason for the rain, because it's nurturing the soil. It's putting the nutrients back in the soil so it can grow, and then the sun will shine, so then you can grow and feed off the fruit of the seeds that you planted. It's all a cycle. And so it's the same way with emotions, is just figuring out, why am I feeling this way? And, how can I start to work my way out of it? And what lessons can I learn from it? And then as you're doing that, sooner or later, you start to realize you're back on the up and up, and then you go back down and then come back up. I think it would be boring if you were just, up and high all the time, because there's a point in time where you stop to forget how far you've come, and then you stop appreciating it as much, So,
and I love that you mentioned that, man, because literally 2018, I'm looking at my Insta stories, and I'm just like, dang, that was fun. That was fun. That was fun. There started to come to a point where I'm just like, if we do everything, like the life we lived last year was the life that it takes normal people 5 to 7 years to live. And now I'm cutting back drastically on those memories and those moments, because it started to get to a point where I don't even appreciate it anymore, because I expect it to happen. Like if you're spending $150 on a dinner and you do that multiple times throughout the given year, going out to eat with your wife and your significant other anymore is going to have less and less value to it, right? If you keep doing it all the time. And so that's one thing that for 2019, I'm scaling back on all the crazy stuff, and I'm just being more intentional on the few memories that I do want to matter the most, so that when I am 40 or 35 or 50 or whatever, I can have more and more of those experiences. I just imagine like, yo, you got all the Lamborghinis, you have all the Ferraris, you have all the mansions, you've done all the stuff by 27, or you've done all the stuff by 30. Well, damn, 40, 50, 60 and up is going to suck, because what else is there to do? You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the realizations that I had too over this past year.
You know what, man? Like, you have to enjoy the journey. Without a journey, like, what's the point? There is nothing for you to wake up and hope for. Like that's where the fun is. Like, oh, hopefully tomorrow, or where am I going to be next month or next year? And then you get to next year and you're not actually where you thought, because you're thinking like 20 years ahead. But then you keep that thinking, oh, okay, if I made 1% improvement or progress, where can I be next month or next year? And before you know it, you've done like 10 years of work, and it all comes together. But I think because we see pictures on social media and we hear, the thing is, because we're thinking about that stuff, we seem to only focus on that stuff, and we think, oh, this guy's got it, that guy's got it. And you don't realize the story behind that, or where they are in their life. We assume automatically, oh, because I'm where I am and they are where they are, I've missed out on something, or there's something I haven't quite done. But it's not the case, because you haven't seen all the steps before that. You've seen that one picture on the Saturday in the evening, and not like the hundreds and thousands of Saturdays before that, and how they spent it just to get to that one. So but just to change gears a little bit and jump into like your area of expertise, like with personal branding, what do you think makes a good brand personally for an individual?
Yeah, so I think it really just comes down to like branding in a nutshell. At the end of the day, is what people think, feel, and say about you. A lot of people think it's your logo, website, font systems, color schemes, and all of that. Those are just brand touch points. So what makes a good brand is just like, one, knowing who you are, what you're about, and what you stand for. Having some type of firm message and some type of firm belief, and getting that out to the world, right? So super important. But also having some type of personality too. So I think about someone like Bill Gates, and I think about someone like Mark Zuckerberg. They are financially wealthy as I don't know what. But would I actually want to hang out with them? No, I'd be bored out of my mind. I feel like personally, maybe if you just want to pick their brain and just tap into their mind for a whole day, like cool. But for me, what I actually want to go out and have a drink with this person. And so being the personality and being a persona that people actually want to spend time with, because we all know, like with social media and getting out there with marketing and stuff like that, you constantly got to show face. And if you're boring, if you don't have the energy, you don't have the message, you don't have the belief systems, if you don't have the confidence and all of that, your brand's going to end up going downhill. The other side, so that's just like from the personality side. The other side of it is more from the experience, the knowledge base, the methodologies, your systems, your process systems, your experiences, and all that. Really having some type of offering that makes you, that makes you unique. Having the social proof, having the case studies, having the results, having the testimonials. All of these things play full circle within one another. And obviously, it's going to take some time to check the box on all of those, but really figuring out like, hey, like right now, what are the top 3 things that I have to focus on to get me to that next level? So once I get to that level, boom, now I'm on to the next one. So in a nutshell, high level, those are the things that I genuinely believe will help you go further, faster from a personal branding perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to make it a bit more grounded for those who are listening to this and are thinking about this for the first time, or like are doing this for the first time, can you give some light on how you did, what that thought process was for you? So like I think it was the thinking, feeling, and what was the other one?
What they think, feel, and say about you.
Think, feel, and say, yeah. So if you could just give an example of like what people would think, feel, and say about you, or someone else like Bill Gates, whatever it is, just to give an example of how people should be thinking about that stuff.
Right. So let's say, you're a fitness expert, or you want to be a fitness expert. So regardless of whatever channel someone comes in, and these channels we're going to call brand touch points. So maybe it's a video, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a speaking engagement, maybe they saw an advertisement, maybe you were just at a conference or event and they met you in person. Essentially, what do you want these people to think? Man, this person is knowledgeable. They know their stuff. They're the go-to experts. They genuinely care. Like, what are those different adjectives and those words to really describe what are the things that you want to be perceived as in the minds of the people who would essentially be doing business with you, or the people who will actually be buying from you or be a part of your tribe and listening to you, right? And then from the feeling perspective, how do you want people to feel? Do you want them to feel fired up? Do you want them to feel excited? Do you want them to feel motivated? Do you want them to feel inspired? Do you want them to feel like today's the last, like there's no tomorrow, like today is it, right? So we think about people like Eric Thomas, or we think about people like Grant Cardone, or we think about people like Tony Robbins. We know those feelings. Like for me, if I'm down and out, I know who I'm going to, or who I'm going to listen to get me to feel a certain type of energy. If I'm super high and I need to like come down a little bit and be more empathetic and have a little bit more emotions and feel, I know who I need to listen to get me to start feeling that type of way, right? So what do you want people to feel? And then lastly, what do you want them to say? So this is where your results, what you've been able to do for other people, what have you been able to do for yourself, how you show up to other people, how you show up for other people. What does that look like? So from my standpoint, saying, me being featured here, me being on this podcast here, me able to produce X amount of results for my clients, be able to produce X amount of results for myself. What do I want people to say? Me, that I'm connected with this person and that person, me, that I've been able to add value to this person, that person. And it all is going to end up coming back to you in some way, shape, or form, whether someone is wanting to learn from you and they want to be a part of that process and journey for the long term, whether someone's just like, man, this person's so awesome, I don't even know if you've thought of them yet, but this is your way of being top of mind to other people. Boom, boom. When they think of this, they're going to actually connect you with this person, or if that's someone actually just gonna buy from you, right? So those are the different type of things from what people are thinking, feeling, and saying that you're going to want to think about at the ground level. And then from there, you're going to want to create the perception, and you're going to want to create the products and the services and the messaging, and even how you show up, how you dress, how you communicate, how you speak to people, how you, like what your presence is. For me, for instance, like I believe fashion is one of the most important indicators of like what it is that you want to put out from a personality standpoint. If I'm in a room with 150 people and, people are talking and they're having these conversations, I want the most important people in that room, I want them to be able to see me from afar and it'd be like, man, who is that guy? I want to talk to that guy. And I want them to stop having the conversation that they're having over there. And I want them to be able to come and talk to me, or vice versa. And so there's all these different things from a personal branding standpoint that we can be doing a lot better, from how we articulate, how we communicate, how we show up, how we dress, how we represent ourselves online. There's all these different ways for us to be able to get ourselves and our messages out there a little bit better.
Yeah, as you were talking, I think the most important thing I picked up from there is the emotion piece, like how you want people to feel about you, or the feeling you want to ignite within people when they think about you. Because as you were talking, I was thinking about that for myself. I was like, it's really the foundation, because anytime I feel like, oh, I want to, I'm hanging with my brother, and we're like, we have a free Friday evening. We're like, you know what, let's catch up and maybe let's watch a movie. What do we want to do? Let's laugh. Okay, let's put Kevin Hart on. So you automatically, like, you connect the two, or let's watch something action based. All right, put a Stallone movie on. So you know where to go. For the right emotion to be evoked from you. So I hope people really take that away and think about, how am I getting people to feel? And it's a point that I touched on with another guest actually a few months back, because we were talking about legacy and how we want people to remember us. And what came from that conversation was, okay, we're talking about the work that we leave behind and what people will be saying about us, but what about how people feel about us? Because when you think about MLK or Mother Teresa or Gandhi, like these names that are thrown out there, like Marcus Garvey or Malcolm X, whatever, you feel power, like you feel empowered. Like we don't know them. Most of us haven't met those guys. We're not old enough to have met, but like we feel it, because we know through the work they did, that was the emotion they portrayed. And then the story that's being told by those who are there, passed down, is that emotion's there, it's carried through. So that right. I'm glad you touched on that, man, because it's a powerful point.
You got it.
But do you have to have a business to have a personal brand, or do you think it's important to have a personal brand anyway?
I think at the end of the day, the personal brand is always you, right? Like, even if you're getting a job, you have a personal brand. It's you versus everybody else. Why should someone want you to have the job versus everybody else? If you're going to get a promotion, if you are an actor and you're trying out for a new role, if you're a music artist and you want to get signed to this new record label, we all have our personal brands. It doesn't matter what we do in our life. If we have certain goals or achievements or things that we want to pursue, I genuinely believe it doesn't matter what perspective or what spectrum it's on. If you have something that you desire, you have to be solid. You have to have some type of personal brand to help you become recognized and be memorable. That's what it really comes down to. How can you be recognized, and how can you be memorable? What you just shared around the people around, how you make them feel, that's memorable. They were memorable. What are the different things that you can do to stand out top of mind? And it doesn't have to be related to business.
Okay, yeah. So people can start thinking about that now, in terms of how are they showing up in the world every day, at work, with their family, with their friends, with new people that they're meeting. So just before we get into the final few questions then, what are the biggest things that you see, like mistakes wise, that people or businesses are making, whether it's on social media or on their websites?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing is, like, it rubs me the wrong way all the time. I think Russell Brunson is an amazing entrepreneur. And I think what he's been able to do, he's been able to be that cult leader that he wants his followers to become to their audience. And so what happens is his whole perspective around, like, hey, you don't need a website. Your landing pages is all that matters. I genuinely believe that every single business owner, every single entrepreneur should have a website, a place in a house digitally where people can come and learn more about who you are, what you're about, what your products and services are, how they can connect with you, all of that type of stuff. But there's a lot of people not doing that. If I meet you at a live event, or I meet you at a conference, or, we connect right here, and I'm like, yo, V, where can I learn more about you and what you're up to, that blah, blah, blah. And you give me this URL and it takes me to a landing page that's asking for my email address and my name, I'm going to be pissed off. And now I'm just like, boom, on to the next one. I'm not even going to talk to you no more. Right. And so that's the first thing people are failing to realize. So when you have your own place that you can call home, that's where things start to excel and grow from you. Think about it from a standpoint of a brick and mortar business. This is going to be your digital brick and mortar business. If you were a local business, well, guess what? We're not a local business. If we're up online, that's our space for people to come and get that experience, get that feeling that we want to inject and evoke out of them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is like, there's so many entrepreneurs out there who are working with cheap clients who don't respect them. They don't respect their time. They're needy, they're high maintenance, they're all that stuff. And the reason why they're attracting those type of clients is because they don't have the persona, they don't have the brand, they don't have the personality to attract a more serious type of customer and a more serious type of client who wants to do business with them. And so if you're like, oh, like I don't care about brand, I just want to market and get my products and get my services out there. Well, hey, by you not focusing on brand and not focusing on how you show up, anybody and everybody's going to end up coming through the cracks versus only the people that you want to come through. And then the other thing was from the perspective of, especially from a website standpoint, having your imagery and having your aesthetic feel a certain type of way. If you go to kevinstimpson.com or if you go to strivingground.com, you'll see the type of emotion and you see the type of feel that we're going after. We're going after people who are edgy, the type of people, you can see that we have like a San Diego, California type of vibe, millennial type of base, super cool. We know our stuff, educated, professional. So again, it comes down to thinking about who you are, what do you want to be known for, and all that type of stuff, and injecting that throughout your brand and all your brand assets. A lot of people aren't doing that. They're just like, oh, I have a product, I have a service, now I just need to sell it to people.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thanks for shedding some light on that, because I guess some people are probably making those mistakes now or are missing out on doing a few of those things. And in this world that's so switched on, I think those are the few places that you do go straight away, is like your social media page, how that's showing up, the website, the about page, like all of that stuff says something about you. And it's a quick way for people to see who you are. Like it's an expansion of like the business card or the small conversation that you've had for the first time, you know? So,
Sure.
Yeah, I hope people take something away from that and take some action on that. Just to get into the final few questions then, the first one being, with everything that you've learned now along your journey, all the ups and downs, is there anything different that you would say to the 18-year-old self?
Yeah, cool. So I would say for my 18-year-old self, the number one thing that is of the most important is not trying to be cool and not trying to be popular. And so back then, it's just crazy because I turned 30 in March. And yeah, that was 12 years ago. But I just think like, man, you would never think as an 18-year-old, you're going to be 30 like before you know it, right? But now, you know, fast forward and reflecting back on that moment, for me, I was doing everything that all my friends were doing. And I was considered one of the popular kids. And as I look back as a 30-year-old, none of the popular kids are doing shit with their life. And I realized that it's the people who were more introverted, who were more quiet, who had more insecurities, who weren't as confident. They're the ones who are just crushing it right now. And it's almost like, what if you actually did the complete opposite of what everybody else is doing? And so that's been really profound for me. And it's like, hey, if everyone's doing this thing, do the opposite. If everybody else is going out, if everyone else is partying, if everyone else is drinking, if everyone else is doing this, watching Netflix, blah, 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 doing all that type of stuff that regular 18-year-olds do or 19, 20-year-old somethings do. Well, hey, where is it that I want to be? And what are those people doing? And it's like, hey, don't even worry about telling these people what you're up to because they don't matter because they're not going to get it anyways. Focus on what those people are doing and learn from them, whether it's in a close proximity, face-to-face, or virtually. That's a complete game changer, and it's been able to work for me big time.
Yeah, I love that you realized that and you shed some light on that, because I've had some time to think about that a lot, because I was one of those guys in school who was introverted, and I always thought, man, like, how do they do it? How are they getting so much attention? Why does everyone want to go to their house? Why does everyone want to go out with them? And without getting too deep, I think when you think about it, it's like that's what love is. That's what becomes your definition of love. It's like, oh, is that what I have to do to be loved? Like, I want the crowds to cheer my name and call me, you know, like, and then you start copying them because you're not wise enough to think that's not real. That isn't,
Right.
they're not in their identity, or maybe they are, but that's not you. You're not old enough to figure out who you are yet. And so I love how, like, you look back now and you think, actually, I was doing the right thing by eventually working out that I need to be the opposite. Because that, with most introverted people, those are the ones who are a lot more reflective. They have a lot more time to think about who they are, and then they make the right choices rather than what's the next best thing, the next best, or the next best thing to jump on. So yeah, man. The second question is, if there's one statement that you could write that goes into a time capsule for generations from now to read, from Kevin, what would that one statement be?
Dang. Oh man. I think it would piggyback off of my last statement, or like my last like message I just shared. And it would be the one that is showing right there behind me. And it's fuck being like everybody else. And that's like when it's all said and done, that's what I want to be known for, because there's so many people out there who's copying, who's modeling, who's swiping, who's just like, they're not being innovative and they're not being creative. Well, I want to go down in history as that one dude who saw a need and saw a need for change and created something all from here, and with the help of his people around him, and who didn't care what people thought, who didn't care what people said, and he did it anyways. So yeah, I would say that.
Again, I'll just quickly say before we get into the last question, like, I love that you said that, because one of my favorite quotes of all time is, "Don't go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail."
Boom.
Create your own fucking footsteps while you're here. Like, you've got one chance to do it. Why are you going to copy someone else? 400 trillion to one. Like, there were so many chances for you to not be here. Why then follow someone? Like, it doesn't make sense, man. Like, do your thing. Even if it takes you longer to figure it out, that's just you. That's your timing. It's not the timing that has to be the same as everyone else's. So when you step into that, I think you become more courageous and you start believing in yourself. And when that happens and you become your own cheerleader, it becomes a whole lot easier, because you're not looking for external validation all the time. And then I guess your personal brand can shine that much more, because you're allowing yourself to be you. So those people will be attracted to you, which will then be the ones who turn into customers, because they actually like you. It's not fake followers, you know?
Right.
So no, that makes a lot of sense. Just to jump into the last question. You've lived a long, healthy life. You've done everything that you could ever dream of doing. What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
The legacy that I want to leave behind is that I gave a voice and empowerment to Black entrepreneurs when there really wasn't one. So for me personally, I was the only, like, even at all the live events that I go to, or whenever I'm out and about, I'm always the only token Black guy there. There's no one that looks like me. And so for me, it's like, cool, I could have went to corporate America, or I could have said, hey, because it took Damon John freaking 20 years to get some buzz and get on TV to say, hey, like, I'm a validated entrepreneur. I built food, I did this and this, and now I get the opportunity to be on Shark Tank. Because I didn't see any people who look like me growing up on TV who started businesses for the bottom up, I wanted to be that guy, and that I would love to have known growing up, instead of being the athlete or the entertainer. And then from there, being able to create multiple businesses that inspired other people who look like me to say, like, you know what, if Kevin can do it, I can do it too. So I'm leveraging my platforms and what it is that I'm creating over the next several, or I should say few decades, to that.
I love that, man. And I always say this, but everyone I speak to, by the end of the conversation, like, they've shared so much value that I think people know that they're already on their path and their journey to making that happen, whatever that is that you've just described for yourself. So where can people find out about you, your journey, and Strive and Grind as well?
For sure. So kevinstimpson.com, you can find out everything about me. Social media, Kevin Stimpson as well, Kevin_Stimpson on Instagram. And then my website for Strive and Grind is just striveandgrind.com. So pretty straightforward.
Awesome, bro. Now, well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and I look forward to the next one.
Thanks, V. Appreciate you, man.